Hi, Eric Gibaud, ericgibaud.com, and today, thanks to photosphera.com, I'm going to present you the Canon 850D, also known as Gimbal t8i, I think. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's start. First, I'll leave you a link of my review of the T7i 800D. Why? Because it's really similar to this camera. Not many things have changed, or not that much. So there are things like easy menu, all this I explained in the other video. So if you're really interested in this camera, check also the other review of the T7i 800D. Okay. Well, I think this series, three figures, or the I, if you have T7i, T8i, T6i, this is where Canon is really starting. I mean, if we think about the origin of Canon in digital reflex, they started with 300D, but then it was three figures. But then later, it was a lot later that appears a lower range of camera, like the 1000D, the 1300D, or 4000D, also known as called T100, or the T7 or the T6. Without the eye. Okay, so that was really this one that entered after like strip version of this series. So I always preferred this series. Of course, if you cannot afford this, you have the lower options, but I think if you can start with this, it's always better. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about this camera. So I'm going to give you the specification, the technical specs, and of course I'm not going to tell you all of them because there are so many that it would take 4 hours to speak about it. So if you have any doubt, you can check Canon website where you have all the specs, and I will also show you pictures and video I've made with this camera and give you my impression. For the last 10 years, really, I think image quality in cameras have not bettered that much, so there is never so much difference to be really impressed. So it's more about sensation, buttons, feeling, features, more than image quality anyway. So I will give you my opinion about the camera. Well, this camera has an APS-C sensor with a crop factor of 1.6, and the sensor is 24.1 megapixels. This is not a new sensor, it's a sensor we've seen in other Canon's camera, and I could say it's a bit old, but that's logical because nowadays, I mean, improving sensor is complicated. They could put more resolution, but then it would be like a higher range, like the 90D. I'll leave you a link of the 90D here. So I think it's understandable. The processor is Digic 8, which is a bit better than Digic 7, is not the predecessor had, so it's a bit faster. You have a sensor cleaning system, which is good. Autofocus. Well, first, before speaking about autofocus, I want to say one thing is Canon, like on the 90D I just mentioned, they're really starting to put vitamin in their live view system. It means when you use it using the normal viewfinder, you have all the reflex specs you can expect, okay? And then when you use live view, then you have many things that are typical from mirrorless. So they give you things normally you would find on mirrorless and not really on reflex cameras. Same, we saw that on 90D and other cameras by Canon, so that's good. So back to the autofocus. If you use the optical viewfinder, you have 45 cross points, which is okay. Cross point has the better autofocus system point, okay. Then if you use the LCD, you have 143 points, and it's dual pixel autofocus system. And then you have face and eye detect, which is good. So if you're going to use the live view, then you can detect face and the eye, and for video, all this is good. This is a plus. Compensation -5 +5. ISO, so I'm going to pass you some pictures. It goes from 100 ISO up to 25,600, and you can force it to 51,200 ISO in photo. In video, it goes from 100 up to 12,800 ISO, and then you can force it to 25,600. Well, I think Canon has done a good job. I mean, ISO, many people think about Sony and they become mad about that, about the result, they're like impressed, you know. But a camera is not just ISO, there are many other things in a camera. So I think when you look at the files, I think at 3200, even 6400, quality is okay. So I think for that range of camera, that's really a good job by Canon. Maybe this is the G8, which did a good job, but I think the noise you see is acceptable. So I think this is good. So for people who want to buy that kind of camera, they cannot complain about the result, I think. Okay. By the way, I'm going to do a small parenthesis. When I speak about cameras of this range, it all depends in the country where you are. If you are in economically more advantaged countries like Europe or the United States, Australia, you see this camera as an amateur camera. But if you're in South America, Central America, many countries in Africa, India, you probably see it as a pro camera. Why? Because in some countries where they have more money, they feel they can get a better camera. But in other countries where there is less money, many pros, they cannot afford to have these top of the range cameras, and they buy this and they make wonderful things with this. So doesn't matter the money you have. If you're a pro with a small budget, obviously you can use that kind of camera. You will miss some specs, you will miss some things that you would love to have, like separate wheels for aperture or things like this. But it doesn't mean you cannot work with that. I mean, 15 years ago, we were doing weddings with a 300D, which is a lot less than that, okay? So as a professional, so I think this is a okay camera, whether you're professional or whether you're amateur, don't worry about that, okay? The shutter speed goes from 30 seconds up to 4,000ths of a second, plus bulb mode. Bulb is when you keep the finger on the trigger, or you use a smartphone to trigger it, or you have a remote control here. As long as you keep your finger on it, the picture is still going on. 4,000ths of a second, 1/4,000th of a second, is it little? Well, for that range, that's okay. Pro prefer to have 8,000ths of a second, but depends what kind of picture you're doing. If you're doing portraits, you never use not even 4,000ths of a second normally, so it's not really a problem. So I think that's fine. The viewfinder, it's okay. You have diopter correction here, which is good, and it covers 95% of the picture. It means when you look at this, what you see, there is an extra part of the picture you don't actually see in the viewfinder. Is it a problem? Well, Pro prefer to have 100% viewfinder, so what you see is what you get, okay? But then there are more expensive cameras, the prism is bigger, larger camera, all this, so this is why this kind of camera never have 100%. If you want to have 100%, you need to go to the live view. Then yes, you have 100% because this is actually what the sensor is saying. So the good thing about 95% is, like, if you're a beginner or you're not an expert yet, maybe when you're going to frame your picture, it won't be straight. And then the fact that there is still a bit of margin around, when you're going to rectify on your computer, then it will lose a part of the side. So if this side you didn't take into account when you made the picture, and you have it as a bonus, when you're going to rectify, you won't eat up the picture you have thought, okay, or you thought you were making. So I think that's okay. That is 95%. You also have depth of field preview button, which is good to see the real depth of field. Normally in lower cameras you don't have that, and I think this is a really useful feature when you learn how to use it. This is good. The screen is 3" and fully orientable. I think this is really good. I think many people don't like that. They feel it's not useful, but I think it is useful, not just for vlogging. Obviously when you do vlogging this is great, but you look at yourself like this. But when you want to do like a picture above a crowd, you put your camera on top and then you look at the LCD screen, or on the floor. You don't have to put your eye in here, you just put the screen up and you can have a look at it. So I think this is really useful in this sense. I think every camera should have a screen like this. Vlogging style testing with Pino. The sound you hear is directly from the camera microphone. Pino, say hi. Oh, she's busy taking things off. Okay, the face, I'm touching the screen, just 1 second. The face is detect is really working fine. Hello. Oye, Pino. Pino, mira. Hello. The screen is completely touchable. You can really configure many things and use it nicely using touching the screen. So this is good. Flash, you have a flash here, integrated flash, and it syncs at 1/200th of a second. And there is here a hot shoe. So one thing, look at the hot shoe. There is a central connector, which is really good because the SL3, or known as 250D, and the 4000D and 2000D, known as T7, T7 and T100, they don't have this central connector. This means that it is a lot more expensive to buy a flash that is compatible. Here you can use a basic standard flash, manual flash that costs maybe 50 euros or less. You can use it. On these lower end cameras, you need a Canon compatible flash, and this is more expensive. Burst rate. If you use the Viewfinder, you can get 7 images per second, and if you use Live View, you get 7.5 images per second, which I think is great. I mean, for that range of cameras, if you want to do some sport photography, or not really fast action, but normal action photography, football, whatever, it is plenty. This is enough. I think this is good. Okay. You have also highlight warnings, which is useful because many people, when they check the picture, they want to know if there are some areas where they will lose data for overexposure. So you have this warning. Then you have the typical function you get in many beginners camera, but you can also find now in higher end cameras, they also put them, which are the scene mode, the style mode, and so the scene mode, what is it? But for example, you don't know how to use your camera in manual mode, and you want to make a portrait, and you're not sure how to configure it. Well, you go full portrait and do some setting that will get your picture the best as possible. Or you want landscape, or you want fireworks, whatever. You have many scene mode. Then you have styles. Styles are thought for people who don't want to process the images in the computer, and they want to give some styles. Okay, thing I never use, but it is there. I pass you some of them, like drawing, HDR also, which HDR is not really style. You have other options, but okay, and funny looks, and I call it how you want, but it's in there. Also, you can already process some raw file in your cameras. You can do some kind of editing in this camera. If, for example, you don't want to export it to your computer, you cannot because you're traveling, and you want to process a raw file or crop a picture or whatever, or turn a picture, whatever. You can do it, and then, well, you export it to your mobile phone, your cell phone, and then you send it to social networks or whatever you want. There are some function in there. Let's speak about video. I think there's one thing that's new, I think this is good, is you can do vertical videos. Why? Because normally videos for videographers are horizontal, like the one you're seeing right now, whether you publish on YouTube, on TV, or on cinema, whatever. It's horizontal. But many people with social networks, they want to use vertical video for stories, Instagram stories, Facebook stories. So this is really useful that you can actually record in vertical. I don't know if I would use it, but I know that many people need it, so I think this is really good they've put it. Okay. Then video formats. It does 4K in 16:9 format, not the C4K, which is larger, wider, but 16:9 is exactly what you see of me right now in YouTube. Okay, and in 4K you get 25 and 24p, but then it crops. You get a crop of 64. It leaves you 64% of the picture when you're doing 4K, and if you use the image stabilization, electronic image stabilization, it leaves you 57%. And if you're on better image stabilization, it leaves you on 44%, which is really little. This is half of the picture. So if you're doing 4K, the crop is important. It means if you want it to work on the wide angle, you will need to get a lens with a wide angle, even more wide angle. Is it a problem for me? Well, I don't record in 4K. Why? Because many people cannot process a 4K video on their computer anyway. It's not powerful enough. Or if I process it and then you see it on YouTube, then maybe your internet connection is not fast enough to have a look at it, so you will drop to 1080 anyway, so I prefer to record in 1080. But it depends what you want to do, but no, there is this crop. If you go to Full HD, you have 60, 50, 30, 25 and 24p, so you can do slow motion at 60 or 50, okay? And then there is no crop unless you use the image stabilization. The image stabilization leaves you 90% of the size, and if you do the advanced stabilization, then it's 70%. Although the kit lens has stabilization, okay, so maybe you may not need this stabilization, but I think 90% is acceptable. So if you're going to work on Full HD and you need to activate the stabilization, I think this is not dramatic, it's acceptable, okay? Maximum recording time 30 minutes. I know that you don't have to limit to 30 minutes anymore, but many makers still do it, whether it's for heating reason or for commercial reason. I understand Canon does it because otherwise they would sell less of their higher-end cameras, okay? So there is a maximum continuous recording time of 30 minutes. You have to press again the shutter to keep recording. You have 14 features you can actually personalize. You set it as you want, so this is useful to make the camera as you like, as you want. I think this is a good point. GPS, you can actually, there is no GPS in there, but you can use it, it's compatible with the Canon GPS receptor, the GPE2. Then you have connectivity, USB, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and mini HDMI, and also microphone jack, 3.5 jack, and also remote control connector. It uses SD cards. And also you have direct printing using the PIC bridge system by Canon if your printer is compatible. So I honestly like this camera. Honestly, I think the size is okay. I mean, this is a typical size which is not too big for small hand and not too small for big hands. Nice sentence, but this is reality. And the grip, as you can see, is really good. Your hand really can hold properly, and maybe if you had really big fingers, maybe, I don't know, you would need really massive fingers. I'm not sure, but maybe it would be a problem. I'm not sure, but I think the way it holds in your hand, it's really okay. Buttons are properly placed. Well, take into account this camera is concept or series is really the oldest camera series, and they've bettered the grip, they've bettered the weight hold, the ergonomy, all this for many years. So I think now it's hard to make it better. It's exactly, people who buy this, they want that, you know, except they're new, but people who know more or less, they like this format. It's okay. And the build is okay. This is plastic, okay, this is plastic, but for that kind of camera, I think this is okay. Cons and pros. Well, cons. This is not weather sealed, so this may be a problem for you if you need to go to places where it's a lot of dust or humidity or rain. That may be a problem. So if you wanted a sealed camera, you would need to go to the 90D. Okay. There is no jack or connector for headphones. So if you want, when you record video, you want to listen to what you're recording, well, there is no, this option is not there. So I think it's a bit of a pity. But well, that's it. And there's one thing they took off that you had in the predecessor, which is NFC connection. I mean, for example, you get your phone with NFC possibility close to it, and the picture will transfer directly to the phone. They've removed this function. Why? Well, I think because not every telephone has this, and I'm not sure that many people are using NFC. So I understand they took it out. Maybe this way it's a bit cheaper, and well, I don't know, it's not there. So if you wanted it, you need to know it's not there anymore. Pros. I think the battery, I didn't speak about the battery yet. The battery life is really good. If you use the Viewfinder, you get 800 pictures on one single charge. This is not top, but looking at the size of the battery, I think this is not bad at all, because this is a small battery, and to get 800 pictures on this is really acceptable. If you use live view instead of Viewfinder, then it drops to 310 pictures. It's really little, so, but if you really want to use live view only, maybe you better go for a mirrorless camera. So that's okay. But 800 pictures on that single charge, I think this is fine. Other pro, I think vertical video is really good that he offers this feature. I think it's different. I think it may be useful for many people. And then the microphone jack, obviously for vlogging all this and video, I think it's really useful because you need external microphone if you don't want to hear the noise when you touch the camera, all this. So, would I recommend this camera? Yes, obviously I would. I think this is a really good camera, and relation, price, quality, size, all this is fine. If you already have the 800D or T7i, would I buy it? No. Why? Because the difference is not enough to justify changing cameras. Not even price reason. The new features, and well, there are not that many new things, you know, maybe vertical video and that's it, you know, so really I don't think it's worth changing. But if you don't have any camera and you want to get a camera, you don't want the basic one, I think this is a good option. So would I buy the 800D or this 850D? Well, obviously I think it's better to go directly for this one, because the day you want to resell it, you will keep more value because it's newer. So it all depends on the price. But I think this is a great little camera if you want reflex, if you don't want to pay for a mirrorless, and if you want Canon, this is probably the best camera Canon can offer for that price. And my question is, will Canon replace the 77D? Because for me the 77D was worth paying the difference with the 800D, because the extra screen on the top, button better place, all this, it's like, it was more like a camera that Pro wants at a cheaper price. So I think that was a good option, but I'm not sure they will replace the 77D and get a 88D or whatever. I don't know. If there would be a replacement of the 77D with the same price difference between the 77D and 800 and this new one with this one, then I would probably go for the higher one. But then it's all the same thing. I spend a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. At the end, you spend a lot. So if you cannot afford to go for higher, this is brilliant. And obviously, if you cannot afford this one, well, you have no other option than to go for a lower option, a lower level camera. And that's it. No drama, no problem about it, okay? So I do think this camera is really recommendable. And if you were thinking about this one, go for it without any thoughts. You know, it's really a good option. Thank you very much, Photosula, for lending me the camera. Thanks to you for watching this video. If you feel it may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a small button down here and also a small bell. If you click on the bell, get notified when I upload a new video. My website, ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, you can leave a comment below, send me an email to info@ericgibaud.com. And below also leave you links of my gear on Amazon and also links to other parts of my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Take care. See you soon. Bye.